All right, we're on tape number 5 now, and this is what we're going to talk about impeachment. President Trump was impeached, and so we want to get into why that happened. The first thing to know is what is impeachment? Okay? Impeachment is in the Constitution. It is a constitutional remedy that Congress has if it wants to get rid of someone in the executive branch. Okay? So it doesn't have to be used just against the president. It could be used against the vice president. It could be used against the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State. It could be used against an ambassador to Botswana. It could be used against anybody who's appointed to a job in the executive branch. It has been used against judges. It has been used even against a Supreme Court justice back in about 1803. So, impeachment works simply. The House of Representatives meets, they study evidence, and they decide that the president has done something wrong. What has he done wrong? Well, that's, in the end, up to the House of Representatives. The Constitution says it must be high crimes or misdemeanors. What does that mean? The reality is, we're still debating it in the 200 and something years since they wrote those words. We aren't sure. In the end, I interpret it to mean whatever the House of Representatives wants it to mean. In other words, the House of Representatives decides they don't like this person. They're going to get rid of him. The way to do that is through impeachment. It takes a simple majority vote. The House of Representatives comes up with charges. They present them to the House of Representatives. The House votes, yes, impeach, no, leave him alone. Okay? So the second step is after a president or some other official, but let's stick with the president, after he's impeached, then it goes to the Senate. And the Senate has a trial. And the Senate's trial is very simple. It's not about guilt or innocence. It's about whether this person should be kicked out of office. That's all it is. Just get him out of office. Okay? So the House impeaches someone. The Senate kicks them out of office. We have had 3 presidents impeached. Andrew Johnson in 1867, Bill Clinton in 1997, and Donald Trump in 2019. Those are the only 3. And guess what? None of them have been convicted. None of them were tossed on their ear out of office. Okay? So remember, 2 parts. Impeachment and then tossing him out of office. Donald Trump has to be aware that he will have, for the rest of American history, the scarlet eye on his shirt. He will always be impeached. When your grandkids pick up their history books or whatever books are going to look like at the time you have grandkids, what are they going to say about Donald Trump? The very first thing they're going to say about Donald Trump is Donald Trump impeached. And then they're going to talk about his accomplishments, etc. Okay? That's simply what Donald Trump is going to have to live with. Now, why was Donald Trump impeached? That's the real question. Okay. Very simple. Remember in the previous tape, I was talking about Russia. And there was all this focus on Russian collusion with Donald Trump and Trump campaign. Were they working with the Russians? In the end, that ended inconclusively. There was a special prosecutor, Robert Mueller, who issued a report, and it landed with a big dud because Robert Mueller, in the end, came to the conclusion that there wasn't collusion. And while Donald Trump did wrong things, specifically in relationship to hiding the truth, called obstruction of justice, Robert Mueller did not say that the president colluded. Okay? So, summer of 2019 was going on, and President Trump picked up the phone, and he called the president of the Ukraine. Now, it's important to know Ukraine is a country just south of Russia. Ukraine is involved in a war with Russia. And several years ago, the Russians invaded part of Ukraine and seized an island in the country called Crimea. More correctly, a peninsula. But they seized it and they said, this is ours. And so since then, the last 5 years or so, there has been military conflict, low level, but constant military conflict since then. The United States has been on the side of the Ukraine. President Trump called up the new president, who was newly elected in Ukraine, called him up, and he basically said, here's the deal. I need information on Joe Biden. Specifically, what I'm interested in is Joe Biden's son, Hunter, working for a Ukrainian oil company. Turns out he was on the board of directors of that Ukrainian oil company, making $50,000 a month. Wow, that's a lot. Making $50,000 a month working for this Ukrainian oil company. Okay, so President Trump called him up and said, I need information about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Okay? Then he said, we have this military aid, $400 million in military aid, that Congress voted to give to you. And he said, I want to delay giving that to you. I need some information about Joe Biden. Now, this is called a quid pro quo. Maybe I should spell it out so you have it. A quid pro quo. Quid, Q-U-I-D, pro quo, Q-U-O. A little bit of Latin for y'all. And what it simply means is I scratch your back, you scratch mine. In other words, you give me information on Joe Biden, and I'll make sure you get this $400 million in money that Congress has given to you. Quid pro quo. So, that was the phone conversation. It was followed up by subsequent meetings with the ambassador from the United States to the Ukrainian president, as well as other diplomatic people in the State Department who basically reiterated the same message. Some people were deeply disturbed by this. They said a quid pro quo is illegal. Okay, now let's take it through. Can the president ask for information about an American citizen? Hunter Biden is an American. Yes, he can. Can the president threaten to withhold money from the Ukraine? Yes, he can. Can the president tie the withholding of the money to getting the information? No. That's called extortion. Quid pro quo is a nice way to say it. Extortion is really what it is. Okay? You can't do that. And the only question here is, did the president explicitly tie the information with the military aid? Democrats, when they saw the transcript of this conversation, the White House released the transcript. When they saw the transcript of the conversation, they went ballistic. They said, this is extortion. This is wrong. We have to impeach the president. Republicans are saying, wait a second. He asked for information. He threatened to withhold aid. That's all. There's no connection between the two. Okay? That's really what the impeachment thing, in the end, is all about at its simplest level. Okay? So, the House of Representatives, controlled by Democrats, heard the evidence and decided this man did wrong. President Trump needs to go. So they impeached him. Went to the Senate, controlled by Republicans, and they said, not impeachment, not impeachment at all. There was one senator, Republican senator, who voted for the president to be impeached, and that was Mitt Romney, who was the Republican nominee for president in 2012. He and Donald Trump don't like each other at all. So there is that tension, and Mitt Romney voted with the Democrats to impeach the president. But to impeach the president, you need 2/3 of the Senate to do it. You need 67 senators. They never got 67 senators, never came close to it. Okay? So what we have is the president saying, I want some information about Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son, and president saying, I'm going to withhold aid. Did the president withhold aid? Yes, he did. It was finally released a couple months later. Is there anything illegal about Joe Biden's son working for the Ukrainian government? No. You can get a job with basically anybody you want to, whatever country you want to. Okay? So that's not illegal. The question is, did Hunter Biden get that job only because his dad was running for president, or at the time was actually the vice president of the United States? Did he only get that job because of his dad? And very possibly, yes, that might be the only reason he got that job. Is that illegal? And the answer is no, that's not illegal. It's unseemly, maybe even unethical, but not illegal. Okay? So, at its simplest, Republicans decided President Trump didn't do anything wrong. The Democrats decided he did. The Democrats impeached him. The House did not throw him out. But Donald Trump will have, for the rest of his life and for the rest of American history, that scarlet eye. He is impeached. That's it.